Hang
Hi,
on.
hi, Kim.
How are you?
I am very good, thank you. I am just going to put this into gallery view. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. I'm going to apologise just in case the internet connection drops out.
Oh,
Because it's been doing that to me all day, but only today.
Oh, look,
So,
I totally get it. And I have had, to be fair, I have had a couple of these interviews where the internet's just played up for no particular reason.
that's what it's
So
doing for me today.
oh, I so feel for you, Kim. I totally feel for you.
Okay.
So we will just press ahead anyway. And what I've done in the past, if it's just gone too crazy, we've just stopped and then we've rescheduled.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so
look,
fingers crossed it's all, I mean, we've rebooted, we've done everything. Just make sure the lighting's okay. There's lighting all around me, which is why I've tried to block things out.
Yes.
And I've turned around to where I'd normally be because the sun's moved again. We all okay?
Yes.
No, bright.
You look totally fine to me.
Good. All good.
You look totally fine. Have you ever done a live to Facebook like this before?
No, I've done pre-recorded Zooms, but not.
Yes, yeah. So it basically feels exactly the same. The slightly weird thing is it's hard to know. Like it will start being live as soon as I press go, and I have learnt that Facebook doesn't say it's live, but it is. So we can spend a couple of minutes going, is it working? Is it? And I've learnt we're just gonna crack into it. Okay. Yep. So as soon as I've said I'm pushing live, I will start interviewing you.
Sounds good.
Cool. Yep. And the other thing to know is, if this is okay with you, at the end, I haven't figured out how to turn off the Facebook interview without completely losing you on Zoom. So it feels weird, like, because we've just done an interview and then it's like, I close the interview off and then it's like I've cut you off Zoom. So what I would love to do, because it just feels so much nicer, is after I've finished the interview on the Facebook page, if we just both hop back on this line.
Yep.
So I can just then say thank you and how did that go, and we can just kind of debrief a little bit, because it's a bit weird otherwise having an interview like that and not completing it. Cool.
Sounds good.
Fabulous. I have so many questions for you, Kim.
How long do you think it will take, by the way?
Well, most of the interviews I have had are about 45 minutes.
Okay.
If that works for you.
Yeah, so that's fine. I've blocked out the time.
Cool.
I was just, because I can talk.
Oh, okay. Well, if we're still here in 2 hours, no. But if I try and keep it about 45 minutes, because that seems to be a good length. If we go to an hour, that's no problem. But
we'll just wrap it off. Yeah, you just
Well, I'll keep a little eye on the time as we go as well. So
sounds good.
Cool. All right, so here we go. Oh, have you got everything else on your computer shut down? Like there's no other tabs open?
What sort of tab? Like I've got some tabs open. Do I need to
so close? I would, if you can, have this, so all your email, Facebook, whatever is closed. So this is Zoom is the only thing you've got running on your computer. That I have discovered can make quite a big difference.
Okay. Now I can't get you back again. Where are you?
Oh.
No, I've just lost you.
You lost me. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. No, that's all good. I was just shutting everything down apart from Zoom.
Cool.
It might take me some time to get back into my emails to then get back into the link.
Okay. I'll tell you what. That's all right. Doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter if it takes you 5 minutes. I will just be here and we can we can find each other.
Yeah, just let me grab a drink because I've got the bag. Too much talking.
I know, I'm the same. Okay, good. I've got a little cup of tea too. So you feel free to, it's very, very chilled. So we'll, cool, awesome. So let's do this.
Yep.
Okay, so I will let you know when I've pressed the live thing. So I'm going to go share to a group. Body Confidence Coaching Club, next. Preparing live streaming preview. Sorry, this just is taking me a little minute.
Okay.
And I will say something here. And I will put all your details in the comments afterwards because I've just found this. Okay. Setup options. Yep. Okay. So here we go. Go live. I'm pushing it now.
Okay.
Hi, Kim, and welcome to the Body Confidence Coaching Club. As you know, and as everyone here in the club knows, I have been so excited to have you as our guest expert this month because I know I have a lot of questions from clients, and I work a lot with clients on sleep routine at, I would say, a vanilla level. So if that makes sense. Yeah. And so it is, and I am beginning to believe and understand how important having a good sleep routine is, not just for body confidence, but for everything. Yeah. And I've started to see a real correlation between how once a sleep routine gets really embedded in people's lives, or particularly for parents, when they get a really good sleep routine going for their kids, that it becomes easier to try new foods, to sit at the dinner table, to not feel quite so fighty, and and I'm sure this is all going yes to you. So I'm just thrilled to have you here, Kim. Welcome. And I'd like to start today with our question that we ask everyone, every expert who comes into the club. Can you please tell us about your family of origin dinner table? What was that like? Who was there? What was happening? What kind of foods were you eating?
Thanks, Emma. It's great to be here. So what I remember is meat and 3 veg around the dinner table. So mum cooking, mum, dad, my brother and myself at the dinner table.
Yes.
And I didn't like it.
You didn't like the
meat and 3 veg. I will not cook meat and 3 veg now.
But interesting.
My kids love it because that's what they get at Nana's still.
Oh.
So yeah, we did the dinner table thing, and it was a treat to have a tray in front of the TV. So
yes, so you had like a regular practice, but then every so often you had like a Friday night or something like that.
Yeah, it was great. And mum always cooked. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. A very common story. I love it. I love hearing that. And then how did you set out on this journey of, I know we've had a little bit of introduction of you in the beautiful description you sent through, how you had a child yourself who was not sleeping. Can you tell us a bit more about how that happened and how you got into this area of expertise?
Sure. Well, I think it started with my son. He was premature and born before my baby showers. And even as a newborn, he had days and nights mixed up. I didn't know that was a thing. It is for
Wow.
newborns. And he was colicky. It was hard. So I started researching sleep before sleep consulting was even a thing in New Zealand.
Yes, yes.
But it was then when he was 7. So we passed the toddler years. I mean, still sleep. Got my daughter onto better sleep habits because she was my second and I knew what I was doing.
Yep.
But at school, he was very anxious and he bought into the urban myths that circulate around the schools. And he started having panic attacks around bedtime.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I have a psychology degree and I researched again, and we could fix it with a bit of help from counselling and doctors, but we had to really change what was happening around sleep and bedtime as well.
Yep.
Because these sleep issues almost split our family apart. They almost ripped our marriage apart. You know, without sleep, you know, it's one of those things you don't realize you're missing it until it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I realized
yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So the doctor had nowhere she could refer me to help with sleep specifically because my son was school age. So I actually then went overseas and trained just to get a little bit more of the sleep qualifications, even though we'd sorted it at home. And Cherished Sleep was born because there needs to be something. It's not just babies and toddlers.
It isn't just babies and toddlers, is it? And I what I'd love to ask you a bit more about is how do we as parents understand the difference between there are just some good practice parenting. Well, I shouldn't say good practice because that sounds judgmental. There are just some ways you can act as a parent that help a kid naturally get into a routine. And there are some ways we can parent that we might inadvertently miss that opportunity. And so we bring some parenting skills to that. And that can make a massive difference. But at what point, or how do we know that there's a medical intervention necessary or something more than just setting up a good routine or understanding, you know, how a bed routine works? Can you talk to that a little bit?
Sure. I'm going to start off by saying that sleep is complex.
Yes.
So think of it like running a car or even an engine. They all have, you know, there's lots of different interworking parts that sometimes it's simple. You just need to put petrol in your car and it goes, or oil in the engine. Yeah. But sometimes there's little bits missing from a few different parts. So that's what we're looking at. And I also know that as parents, we're doing the best we can, especially when children aren't sleeping. And I fell into doing whatever we could to get my son to sleep, and then that starts bad habits. And I call that accidental parenting because we do it for a reason and we do it to help our kids.
And I love that you start there because we can feel really judged. I know I got into some really bad habits and I can see how I did because I was desperate for some sleep myself. You know, I've been through those and so I was acting on like 10% and then I couldn't handle arguments or so you're trying just to firefight. Yeah.
And sleep's important for everything. And they don't give us that information. So, you know, as parents, you'll find that with lots of things. We're just making our way as we go. Yeah. Now, in terms of behavioural or medical, around 80% of these sleep issues are behavioural. So they have done research on this, and I do like, you know, because I've got a science background, a Bachelor of Science in psychology and pharmacology. Wow. So I like it when they can prove things.
Yes, me too. So, hello. Yes, very good big on that.
Lots of research where if you ask a parent directly, are you having sleep issues? About 20% would say yes.
Oh, okay.
But if you then turn around and say, well, would you like to improve your child's sleep? That's when about 75% of parents raise their hand and go, yes. Okay. So a lot of it is how society is looking at sleep. And as parents, and I fell into it as a mum, we kind of buy into that societal, you don't sleep as a mum. That's wrong. And I now know better. So it's about educating people. The thing is, if there is a sleep issue, they have found that 3 years later, 80% of those same children have those issues. So unless we change things don't change.
Yes. So break that down for me again. So if you've got a sleep issue, what did you say before? It was 80% is medical. No, sorry, 20% is medical.
Yeah.
And 80% is what?
Behavioural.
Behavioural.
So that's just habits, and we learn. Well, we're creatures of habits, and sleep is one of the most habit-forming behaviours we have.
Yes.
So, all humans get used to what they know, and we might drive the same way to work as an adult. We sit in the same seat because we've got our favourite spot, even if there's lots of options. That's just how it is. So kids do that with sleep as well. And it's often what we teach them all, that they'll respond to. And a lot of that
is you. So how do we know as parents if we have a child who we would like to sleep better? So putting it in that language that parents use, we would like them to sleep better. How do we know whether we're dealing with a behavioural issue or a medical issue? Is it simply that we try the behavioural stuff and it doesn't work, or is there easier ways to actually go, hang on, I've got a medical issue happening?
There's easier ways to start. So the first thing I'd like all parents to do is look at how their child is falling asleep. Yep. So it's going to be different depending on the age.
Yes.
And even really young children, babies, can pick up good sleep habits.
Okay.
What can get in the way are things I call sleep props. So look at how your child's falling asleep, and are they relying on something to help them get to sleep? Okay. So at a young age, it might be bottles or feeding, nursing, it might be dummies, pacifiers, it might be rocking to sleep. Toddler age, bottles.
Yep.
It might be that, sorry, that's going off in the background.
No, I can't hear a thing.
On Facebook Live. There's always something. Is it? Sorry, can you hear it?
No, I can't hear it. It's probably very distracting for you, but I can't hear it at all.
You can tell. At an older age, what can actually happen is parents become the sleep prop or the sleep aid.
Yes.
So if you have to lie with your child at night, chances are that's a behavioural issue. And they've just got used to you lying with them at night. So when they have naturally occurring wakes during the night, that's where it can fall apart because they seek you out again to recreate bedtime. So that's one of the first things I'd like parents to look at. How is your child falling asleep? Is there a subtle reliance there? And there's normally one primary sleep prop. It's often parents at an older age, which is normal. Okay.
Yes.
And there's often a couple of secondary sleep props. That if
tell us about them,
there's something else in the way. And while we're relying on these sleep props, that natural sleep that we can all do, we don't have to learn or gravitate to that. We start thinking that we just need these things because it's what we've always done.
Yes.
So sometimes it's relearning. In terms of something else, I'd really like parents to look at how quickly their children fall asleep.
So can we just go back to that last point that you made, because I think that's really interesting, is because sometimes it's quite easy to see the main sleep props. So can you give us some examples of a secondary or tertiary sleep prop?
It can be anything external that your child uses to fall asleep. And it becomes a problem when whatever that thing was disappears.
Okay. So you're not
it could even be an audio book.
Yeah, okay.
If they then fall asleep and the audio finishes, when they have that waking, they might need to listen to it again if they're really reliant on it.
Okay.
It literally can be anything.
So you're not, but you're not talking about, say, for example, my son who's 8 still has a blankie. Yep. Sorry, he's not. He still has a blankie, but he's never without that. So is that Is that not a problem, or is it a problem? But
Um,
I don't have a problem with his sleep. He goes to sleep very quickly. He stays asleep all night, and he gets sort of 10, 11 hours every night. So it doesn't, yeah. So you're not saying make sure they've got nothing that helps them.
No,
You're saying look
no.
and see, right, got you.
Yeah, look and see. So it's anything that disappears from the environment
And
throughout
then
the
they
night. So
can't
that
get to sleep
blanket's going to
without
stay
it.
with him.
Yeah.
And it doesn't disappear. However, the parent often tries to sneak out and disappear.
Yes.
That becomes an issue. The bottle goes away. The music stops.
Yes, I got you.
So it's
got you.
about
Very
the environment as well.
Yes. So then so then the next thing you were, yeah, that's so good. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are good sleep props, good sleep aids. Yeah. And
Yes.
bad ones.
Yeah.
It's the bad ones that lead us to trouble. The second thing is how quickly your child falls asleep. Now I'm going to ask you, and I haven't prepped you for this one.
No, this is
Do you know
great.
how long it takes a good sleeper to fall asleep? Someone who knows how to sleep well.
Well, here's what I would say to you is I actually don't know the actual answer to that, because I haven't read any research on this, on that question. But what I would say is my son, who goes to sleep very easily, is asleep within 2 or 3 minutes. My daughter takes a lot longer. So sometimes she can still be awake within half an hour later, 45
How old's your
minutes
daughter?
later. She is 11.
Okay.
Yeah. And we've been doing a huge amount of, so I'd love to get some ideas on that. She doesn't have any props. She's just in bed in her dark, but it seems to take her a long time.
Yeah. And that's something to realize. So often, if you're falling asleep under 5 minutes, not always, but often,
yes,
you're a bit sleep deprived and you're in survival mode. Our bodies are this amazing thing, and it will just shut us down if we need to. So you probably find a lot of parents in this situation, if they get the opportunity to go to bed, well, they're out, dads especially.
Yeah. Interesting.
Different.
That's so interesting.
So you want to be aware of that, because if your child is running on sleep deprivation, especially if they sleep well, something else might be going on. And you'll often find this out from the mood as well. They're grumpy, they're tired, they're irritable, especially the older children. Younger children will cry more, they're clingy, they've got separation anxiety. Yeah. So it does depend on age and stage.
Sure.
Falling asleep within 5 minutes, you either are really good at sleeping, which your 8-year-old might be, okay,
yep,
or you have a reliance on sleep props. So if they're there, you've just learnt to fall asleep very quickly because they're there.
Yep.
Or you're sleep deprived.
Okay.
So a child or an adult who knows how to sleep well typically takes 10 to 15 minutes to fall asleep. That's spot on perfect. And if you think about it, maybe pre-kid days, we don't just go to bed and go to sleep. We might read. We all have something that helps us ease into sleep, which, we start to get on the borderlines of routines and things. Yes. But we make ourselves feel comfortable. Then we'll turn into our favorite position.
Yes.
And drift off to sleep. So it's not an immediate process.
Yes. No, I totally can relate.
We don't need to expect that from our children either. So 10 to 15 minutes. Now, my son, who's 12 now, he has still been caught singing himself to sleep, which I think is gorgeous.
So
that's what he's doing. He's looking around, he's talking to himself, he's singing to himself, then he'll drop off. And on a good day, he'll do that in 10 to 15 minutes. But, we don't need to get worried or upset about that and come in and go, oh, go to sleep, be quiet, because that's just his way of decompressing.
That's just
absolutely fine. Oh. When it gets to 20 minutes or more, especially for a child, it's hard for some reason. And there can be lots of reasons. And that sort of leads on to, it could just be a timing issue.
Yep.
Not tired enough or overtired.
Yep.
Would you like me to go into overtired now?
Yeah, well, so I'm very curious about this. So my daughter, who's 11, wakes up at about 7:30 in the morning. She doesn't wake up zingy. She wakes up kind of sluggish and tired. And she is normally asleep between 9:30 and 10. So I sometimes I oscillate between thinking but left to her own devices, she would happily stay up till 2 in the morning.
They would, wouldn't they?
Wouldn't they?
Especially with devices.
And she's not allowed devices in her room. Good. And all that kind of stuff. So she knows. So it's prop free, I think, unless there's some secondary prop I'm not noticing. But yes. So that's the situation. Yeah. It seems to take her a long time, and she doesn't wake up fresh. So
that's when we look at the behaviour as well, because children often need a lot more sleep than we realise. Now, my 12-year-old, for example, typically needs 11 or 12 hours sleep.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, he's probably slightly different from your average because he does have ADHD, so he's very much on the go. He does have dyslexia, so his brain's going all the time. And it's something to realise, especially with a very sporty child or active child or academic child, that the more we do physically and mentally, the more sleep we need to recharge.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
It's a lot easier if we can go to bed, lie down, stay still and quiet. When we're tired, sleep comes pretty naturally. However, if we're not tired enough, which can sometimes be an issue, especially with children who are still napping at the older ages, we're not tired enough, we can't go to sleep. Or it's too bright in the bedroom, we can't go to sleep, because light tells our bodies to wake up. The sleepy hormone melatonin, which occurs at night, happens in dim light and the dark. That's why they call it the Dracula hormone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because it comes out in the dark. And it's only there at night time. So especially in summer, it's making sure that, the room is really, really dark.
Okay.
As well, because if you've been outside in the bright natural sunlight, it is literally telling our bodies to stay awake. And then it's harder to go straight to sleep.
Yes.
Okay. So that's under tired, not tired enough. But if we get past tired, that's when we get to overtired.
Yeah, I'm very curious about this.
Even adults can get overtired.
Yes.
But we've got a better tolerance.
Yes.
So
not much
well, just staying awake, our bodies are pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So when you get overtired, the body goes, uh-oh, I missed the tired window. Obviously, I need to stay awake. So it starts flooding the body full of stimulating hormones.
Right.
And that's where you might get the second wind. And it's really confusing for a parent because it looks like not tired at all. And it feels like not tired. It's where your child might be up and down a billion times because they've got all this energy. It's like for an adult, we might have had 3 cups of coffee on an empty stomach. No matter how exhausted we are, your body's going, wake up. And that's what often cortisol does for our bodies. Okay, it's known as a stress hormone, but it's also a natural waking hormone.
Okay.
And it means it's harder to get to sleep. It means there's more likely to be more wakes during the night, and it can mean early morning wakes as well. So it's a bit of a real bad thing for sleep.
That's it. Yes.
Overtired.
Yeah. So how do we because I'm starting, sometimes I can see that my daughter, who's very she's got that intellectual thing going on. She's very, she's got a lot of stuff going on, and she's sporty, and she gets home and she likes to chill out after school and all that kind of stuff. But then I can sort of sense that around dinner time she gets really tired. She is tired. But then I'll go into her room at 8:30 and she's dancing and she's, spinning herself up.
That's overtired. Yeah. And the fact that you can see that tiredness earlier in the day. Now, obviously, you've got to make some compromise. You can't put her to bed at 5:30. That's a bit silly. But bringing bedtime forward, half an hour, even an hour, depending, can make a lot of difference. Because once she gets those stimulating hormones, that's party time.
Yeah. And would you say that the waking up sort of tired in the morning is a signal that there isn't enough sleep happening? Is that
yes, there's not enough sleep happening for one reason or the other. Yeah. And it could be that she is just a very active, clever child, and she's just getting tired. I mean, school is tiring, and you see this a lot with 5-year-olds as well. They fall asleep during dinner because anytime you're learning, it's hard. It's hard work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So earlier bedtimes in those instances, or changing routines, or being hyper aware. And a lot of our anxious kids are that sort of hyper aware in their heads, constantly thinking, evaluating things.
Yes.
They do need more sleep than your average child.
Yes.
Because they're doing more work.
They're
using up those sugars, they're using up all that energy. They need more sleep to recover.
That's really fascinating because I've been, I'm a big advocate of suggesting you sort of intuitively know. I'm not a big advocate of just living intuitively without any scientific background, but without any scientific basis to what we're thinking. But the sleep charts you get on, like how many hours I can see you going. And because I know that's a nice guideline, but I'm always like, that's a guideline. We need to
every child's different.
Every child's different. It's not like every child needs the same amount of so it's perfectly natural for an 11-year-old to still need 10 or 11 hours sleep. I'm not saying mine necessarily does, but you're saying we need to look at these behaviors and go, hang on, waking up tired, still not.
So minimum of 10 hours right through the teenage years.
Okay.
I'd say still 12 to 13 at 5 to 6 to 7 until they get used to school, depending on what else they have on. But it's not uncommon to need a 5 or 6-year-old to go to bed at 6:30. My daughter's only started going to bed at 7:30, and she's just turned 9.
Wow.
And my son is sometimes, if we get the timing right, because he is so busy. He needs to be in bed around 7 and wait till 6:30 because we get up early. So.
Right. And so can you talk a little bit about, is it about waking a child in the morning? Is that a good practice so that they're tired in the evening? Or is that something you would say not a good practice? It depends
on the circumstance. If you have a body clock all out of alignment, it feels like jet lag. And we, if we can remember our travel days, it's not a nice feeling. We're tired, we're grumpy. It's just our bodies are out of sync, basically, with our body clocks. The clock is out with our body clocks.
Yes.
And that can kind of happen for lots of different reasons with sleep. Even daylight saving can do it. Or if you've sometimes got a bedtime at 11 and sometimes at 6 and sometimes at 5 and sometimes at 9, you're throwing that body clock out. So you do need some form of structure, and it can help to wake in those instances where you need to put
when you're
everything back in
creating
line.
a structure. Yes. Yeah.
However, if you need to wake a child, they're not getting enough sleep.
Yeah.
They're sleeping for a reason.
Yes.
And it often means if you have to wake them in the morning, and this happens with the exception of teenagers, because teenagers are slightly different.
Yes.
But until that point, if you have to wake them in the morning, typically bedtime is too late. They're not getting enough sleep. Because you want everyone to wake happy, naturally.
Yes.
Yeah, with energy.
With energy.
Sleep is rejuvenating.
That's right. And I know there is I know there is such a thing as morning people and evening people, and I know that's reality.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's also, even if you're not a morning person, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't wake up feeling really groggy and
No, you shouldn't feel groggy.
sluggish, and it's just not your natural time of day. Yeah.
So a lot of that waking groggy can be from alarm clocks or being woken while you're in deep sleep. We will always come out of deep sleep in that groggy feeling yuck stage.
Yeah.
And that's why waking naturally is better as well, because we're past that stage and we're into a light stage of sleep and it's a natural wake.
Yes.
So that's a different component to it again. Yeah.
Totally get it. Yeah.
And that's why naps don't go well for adults, but that's another story.
Right. Yeah, because it puts you off your...
It depends when you wake. You either want to have a really short nap, so you're in light sleep when you wake up, or a longer nap, so you're finished out of that deep sleep. Because if you do wake during deep sleep, that's when a lot of people go, oh, I don't like naps. They make me feel all icky and yucky. And it's often because we're woken during that deep sleep. We haven't come to the end of a sleep cycle.
Yeah. And I suppose if you're waking a child in the morning to get them into a rhythm, you don't want to be waking them in that really deep.
No.
If they're in that really deep sleep, that's not going to be a pleasant experience.
No, it's not going to help. They'll come around a little bit disorientated, grumpy. Yeah. But that actually brings us to that medical side of sleep as well.
Yeah. I was going to circle back to that. So I'd like to hear about that. Yeah.
So the really easy way to think about it, and whether it's a medical condition, because the other thing I should say about cherished sleep and what I do is that we've had everything go wrong with sleep that could go wrong with sleep hit our family at different stages. Including medical issues. Okay?
Which is probably why you're so well placed to help people, right?
Because I've had to do the research.
Because not only had to do the research, you've had to get practical about it too, and know, because there's one thing knowing what to do, and there's a whole nother thing actually doing it. So I'd love to hear that. So I'd love to hear these experiences.
So the main thing is snoring. If you have a child who snores, that is a really, it doesn't, we all get congested at some stage. So if they've got a cold or they're sick or something, a little bit different, but we don't want anyone to be snoring. And that actually includes adults too, because snoring can be a sign of something medical or getting in the way. Okay. And the same with mouth breathing. So if you do check on your child at night, which you may or may not do, depending on if you want to wake them, because if they're in light sleep, you might wake them.
You do not want to go in there. I got it.
Just make sure they are breathing through their nose, because our nose is our filter. And when we start breathing through our mouth, it actually causes all sorts of other issues. The main one is sleep apnea, which you may have heard of.
Yes, 100%.
So that's when we stop breathing in our sleep, and that's scary.
And it's not good for anyone, is it?
Oh, no, because what it means is that your body wakes you up just enough to start breathing again, and then you go back to sleep. Now, we talked about deep sleep and that groggy feeling. Deep sleep is the really important part that makes us feel refreshed. And if we're constantly waking and go back to sleep, waking and go back to sleep, we're not actually getting enough of that deep sleep, that refreshing stuff.
Yeah.
And that's where sleep apnea is really bad. We might, you might not even know you're waking. You might not even know your child is waking unless it's incredibly bad. And that's when they start waking, gasping for breath, or sort of choking awake. Get that seen to if that's happening, because it's scary for anyone, let alone a child. And that's when you'll start to have bedtime, nighttime fears as well, because, someone's choking you in your sleep.
Someone's choking you, and so it's going to be scary. That makes so much sense.
It's going to be really scary. So we've had that. When my daughter was 4, often it will be due to large tonsils or adenoids. Now, my daughter wasn't snoring, which is interesting. But she started wetting the bed after she'd been very, dry at night. So I knew something was wrong. She'd also been in hospital and sick. So, your tonsils are your immune system. They were really large. And so she needed to get her tonsils out to sleep better. Because in her case, she was sleeping so deeply, but she's a good sleeper,
You don't want the mess with the good sleeper.
But she wasn't picking up on those cues that she needed to go to the toilet or her bladder was full because she was so exhausted because she wasn't getting that deep sleep. So we needed to do something medical in that instance. And I've actually got a blog that I wrote following the tonsillectomy as well, because it's not typically sleep, but it causes sleep problems.
Yes. Yeah, no, I can totally see that. So I always tell my clients, I always ask, are they snoring?
Yeah.
If there is snoring, to get that seen to by a medical professional. Am I on the right track to say, even if they snored as babies but no longer do, you should still get that checked out?
In that case, it might change to mouth breathing, because especially when we're younger, and this is where the medical system sometimes falls down depending on who you see.
Yes.
Children can grow into their tonsils. So if they were causing issues at a younger age and they were snoring, but now they're no longer snoring, it could be that they've just grown bigger and there's more room now, so the breathing has improved.
Okay, got you.
Snoring is a very classic sign of sleep disordered breathing.
Okay.
And yeah, that has lots of components. So often tonsils, adenoids. But then my son, a couple of years ago, actually beginning last year, he was 11 at the time, started snoring intermittently.
Interesting.
Every now and again. And no one would take me seriously that it was an issue. So we went privately and we had his adenoids checked, we had his tonsils checked. Then it got really, really bad and he ended up with a respiratory situation in hospital, and he literally woke up gasping.
Oh.
And would fall asleep instantaneously, even though he had no recollection of going asleep, because he'd also wake up gasping quite quickly afterwards. So pretty dramatic, freaked the nurses out, even in hospital, but the doctors, because sleep is not a big component of their learning, really minimized it. Whereas it freaked me out as a sleep specialist, like something is wrong here.
Something, you knew something. Yes.
So he had, because we're trying to sort out all these issues, he had a CT scan for postnasal drip.
Okay.
No postnasal drip, but blocked turbinates. Now, these are things in the nose that can swell. And he literally could not breathe through his nose. So even though he wasn't snoring every night, he was breathing through his mouth. His tonsils were fine, his adenoids were fine. We checked all that out. I couldn't get to the end of it. But when I saw the specialist, no postnasal drip, he's, got big turbinates, but we're not going to do anything about it. And I said, hang on a second. It's affecting his sleep. As soon as I said that, they didn't ask me about it. The specialist then turned around and said, okay, so what we can do is this.
Okay.
And he did have a turbinate reduction. So then he could breathe through his nose, and all the sleep issues and the sleep apnea just went away because he could then breathe through his nose. If we hadn't had that,
he might still be having.
Yeah,
that's right. It's not. I can see the real clear difference now. So I think if people get into that situation, you would be a great person to, like, if you think there's a medical potentially medical to talk to you, to go, how do we actually talk to our specialists? How do we go through this, and also get some real clarity from you, whether you think there's some behavioural things to try, or whether it's just like, no, let's just get this.
And often it's hand in hand. So even if you fix the medical issue, you've got these bad habits for very valid reasons. It's scary at night. You don't want to be alone, but then you do have to build up that confidence and sleeping well with confidence as well. Yeah.
Oh, look, that's so true. And it's the same with food, like kids who have had a medical structural problem with eating when they begin their life, we can get into some really, really bad habits of when teaching our kids to eat and feed after the medical issue has completed, so I can totally see how that goes hand in hand, and then building up their confidence and how to do that in a way that that's going to lead to those good long-term habits.
So
us as adults who, you know, if we're watching this and going, it's obviously sleep is a really big part of parenting, and it's a big part of getting that sleep routine. I have seen over and over again how people suddenly go, we're not fighting about meals as much, my kids are calmer, we have it, you know, they're able to actually get into the kitchen and help me cook now because it's not too overwhelming for them. You know, there's so many ways in which sleep interacts with body confidence, but our own sleep too, are they basically the same principles for adults? That kind of routine, not having props, figuring out how to and also checking our own medical issues if we're snoring or things like that. Is it?
Yeah.
Or is it
my husband's got a sleep study this afternoon. It's only taken 10 years because of snoring. Yeah, and sleep apnea, and he's not feeling rested. I digress.
Yes.
What was your question?
Oh, sorry. I love it. So I'm curious, like we can see the impact of routine and have good habits on kids. Do we as adults, would we do well? Here's the question. Would we do well to be as routined ourselves? Or is the routine not quite as important?
Yes, so routine is really calming and it's our safe place. So it is incredibly great for toddlers because there's so much going on, for any anxious child because there's so much going on, and for teenagers. Okay. Yes. But yes, also adults. It does vary a little bit because there's certain tricks and techniques with doing a really good routine that will work better. So I would say about 30 minutes for a child, going up to maybe 45 if they like reading in bed, like for your school age child, and maybe an hour for an adult. For an adult, I don't call it a routine. And we don't normally go as an adult, I'm just off to do my sleep routine now. But if we stopped and think about it, there are probably some certain steps that we do automatically because it's already become a habit. Typically, like maybe having a shower, going and getting into PJs or out of clothes, or brushing our teeth, washing our face, step by step, that we don't think that's what our routine is. We just do it.
We just do it, yes.
And that's the whole point of healthy habits. The habit is the automated process that we just go through the process without even thinking about it. Yes. But if you want to set that up, if you feel like you're missing that structure, yes, a routine is a really good way to do it. And then we want it to become automatic, so you just go through the motions
each day. Yeah. So when you say, I'm curious by your timing here. So when you say about half an hour for a child, say a primary school age child, is that what you said, half an hour?
Yeah, so up to 45 minutes if they're maybe reading in bed or you're reading to them. So toddler to say maybe 6-ish, half an hour, then maybe 45 minutes.
So the 45 minutes is when you say, okay, it's time to get ready for bed, to when they fall asleep. Is that what we're saying? Yes. And so would you say, and in that 45 minutes, you might do a bath, pajamas, maybe pick out your clothes for the next day, whatever it is you do in your household, hop into bed, have your books, and then 15 minutes for lights out and nodding off to sleep. So sort of half an hour from...
That's kind of the routine until lights off, and then 10 to 15 minutes to fall asleep.
Okay, so 45 minutes...
not included, yeah.
Okay, not included. That's really good to know. Okay, so sort of 45 minutes for it's sort of a wind down. It starts with the bath and the thing and some books and some snuggle time, and then it's lights out, and then you leave them to do their thing. Yeah. So when you say an hour for an adult, are you sort of saying an hour from when you decide I'm off to bed to when you turn your light out? Is
Mums will
that
go,
what you're...
yes, it's an hour anyway, because by the time I put that shoe away and that away and do the dishes, and as soon as I said I'm going to bed, it takes an hour. So it's a little bit different because it's actually I call it the power down hour for adults.
Oh, I love
This
that.
means screen free. So it's not as structured a routine as that we'd want for children. Maybe the last 30 minutes still is, but power down hour is screen free, because screens, like natural light, suppress our melatonin release. Yeah. So it keeps us awake. It doesn't make us sleepy. No matter what people say, I fall asleep in front of the TV.
So you mean all screens? All
screens. It's blue
light. Like TV,
phone, yeah.
Phones, okay.
Yeah. And in today's society, that's a hard one to do. But so beneficial if you're having issues with sleep.
Yeah.
Okay. Sleep's not an issue. You're waking up feeling well rested. Yeah, do what you're doing. It's working.
So even if you were someone who was falling asleep easily, sleeping through the night, but waking up exhausted in the morning, screen time could be an issue the night before?
It could, yeah. Wow. And then we'd want to look at, is there sleep apnea? Is there something else going on as well? Hormones.
Yeah.
Adults are a little bit more complicated again.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but there's a trick to doing the routine, especially at a child's age.
Yes.
And that's simply because it needs to be, it's not just prepping for bed, it's curing the body and the brain that the long sleep is coming. So what happens is it needs to be very set, very structured, step by step.
Okay.
And that is simply because when our brain, it all happens in the cerebellum. So this is all the science stuff. It's our automatic process, like our breathing. And so when our brain anticipates something and it happens, our body relaxes. Next step, anticipate it, happens, relax. Anticipate, happens, relax.
Yes.
Ready for bed. And
that's
really
just biology,
routine,
isn't it? Yeah.
It is. It's working with our bodies, not against it.
Yes.
And screens were not designed to work with our bodies.
Okay.
Yeah. So no screens in the bedtime routine, no free play, something different every day in the bedtime routine. We want it that structured step by step. So your child's brain, and this is an automatic process, anticipates it. It happens, relax. As soon as you anticipate something and you get something else, you're doing the opposite. It's, wake up, what's happened? It's a bit different now. I'm on high alert.
And if you've got an active brain as it is, then a child, I can see this with my daughter,
Yeah, so step by step, really structured, try not to miss it. And that's where it comes into how do we get them to do that? Because a lot of these children want to push back as well. So that's where strategies come in. Not kids. Never
had that. Yeah. So what's your tip for the kid who's like, I hate routines. I don't, because I work. There seems to me to be a really clear correlation between body confidence and also like really kids who are really strongly willed, very strongly willed,
like my son. Yes.
So how do you? So what are your strategies for that?
Rewards do work. So these are not bribes that happened before. They are rewards for doing something well. But it's also making sure it's achievable. Like if you have a child, for example, who's scared to fall asleep by themselves, you can offer them $1 million to go to bed by themselves. But if they don't know how to do that, it's going to fall down flat. So the goal first has to be achievable. The reward has to be right for motivation. And that's about your child's own currency. What is going to motivate your child? Now, often, even at the toddler age, just a parent's attention or doing something with mum and dad is that motivation. So it doesn't have to be money. It doesn't have to be anything tangible, but that can help.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm totally aligned with that. I use with my clients, so anyone who's watching this, who's worked with me, might go rewards, because I'm a big believer in fostering internal motivation and how rewards can be seen. But I think what we're talking about is we're talking about a similar thing. We're talking about a way to encourage that fosters their own internal motivation, because it's linked to the behavior. And it could be using a when then routine, which comes from positive parenting skills, which I love. So like, when you get your routine, then you get time with mum. So it's not a reward, it's you're choosing to do something, and then you get the consequence.
Yes, again, like routines, which I think most people say, oh, we need a routine, but it doesn't work for me. It's just not done.
Yes.
So that's the same thing with rewards. It's got to be done, or praise. It's got to be done properly. So there's people that don't like praise because it's not specific praise and it's not praising the right thing. So there's ways of doing it well and parenting properly. And knowing what you're doing. And it takes a village, because we don't all know what we're doing.
100%. And I'm all for positive consequences that they have chosen. So it's not, and I think it's really cool for anyone who's watching this to go, there's a vast difference between, like what you're saying is, I'll give you $1 million. I mean, that's not, money isn't related to this routine. So it's not never going to work. It's external to the motivation, but having a consequence that's positive and related is going to be, if you wake up fresh in the morning, we will have time, we'll have that extra time to play that game then, or whatever it is.
But just make sure the goal is something they can do. If your child has no idea how to wake up refreshed in the morning, because that's what they think they're already doing, it's just not happening, you're putting a bit of fear and pressure on that person as well.
Good point. So what would you say the goals?
The first goal might be lying in bed quietly and still. And then you might get a reward for that. And I will call it a reward just because it's an easy word, but it has to be the right one. And I'm all about healthy habits, healthy sleep habits. And that habit part is that it comes automatic. But we might have to have a little bit of buy-in just to get them into happening, having it happening first. And then they realize they can do it. And as soon as they realize they can do it, that's when you'll get that internal motivation. But if it seems too hard, or they don't think they can, you're going to get a lot more pushback. Because it's just too hard. I'm going to fail at this, so I'm not going to do it at all, no matter what the reward is. So it might even be stepping up the goals bit by bit, which I'm assuming is what you do.
Yes. And that's right. We do. We create. We create a. Without spending 15 minutes going through it, but it's creating a structure where the child feels like they're empowered. So it's they're choosing to lie in bed calmly. It's not like we're making them, so that it doesn't become a power trip between you and them. So that you're creating an environment where they are wanting to do it because it's motivating to them.
And it has to be. I mean, sleep needs to be fun. How good is it to crawl into bed with some clean sheets, listen to the rain on your roof after a busy day and go, oh, this is so nice. I want all kids to experience that as well. It shouldn't be fearful. It shouldn't be a punishment. It should be a nice thing. But sometimes they have to do it kind of by accident first to realize they can do it. So sometimes we do have other strategies in there, depending on the issue, to make it that nice thing until they can get that internal motivation.
Yes, love it. Yes. So some goals, let's just quickly go through some of this, because I think this is beautiful. So some goals are, like right back from the start could be getting into your pajamas by yourself, as opposed to having mum get them on for you, or for really young kids, lying in bed quietly. What are some other goals you help people with?
So choices. Empower your children by giving them choices. Now, it can't be unlimited choices. It's not like go get some pajamas, but it's, do you want to wear these pajamas or these pajamas? Especially for anxious children.
Love it.
Okay.
A decision-rich environment.
But easy ones.
Yes.
So they have a choice. And, if you've got that very awkward child that, no, their mum or dad choose, so they learn quite quickly to make the choice. But it's that, again, buy-in, it's fun. I actually give a lot of my families visual charts, and the child runs the routine. Mum and dad can play, I don't know what to do, what do we do now? And the kid is the one going, oh, we do this, 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 and this. And they do it. And we go high five. And, you know, we don't want to make it the be all and end all, but we do need that encouragement first.
Love it. I love it. And I'm sure you do things like this too, but I've found with some kids having a chart where the kid gets to move a like a magnet from one place to the next. Once they've done, like I've got my jammies now, I'm moving it to book time.
Action.
The action. And
you can do that. I mean, there's lots of different ways as well. I actually have it, they can carry it around with them. And, you know, it might be stickers. It might be, oh, I like stickers. If you're into that, putting it on the routine chart. So you've got that instant gratification and dopamine release. And that feels good just to do it. And if we do it for long enough, it becomes automatic and habit. And we want to do it for long enough that it is a process. Like as an adult, we just step through the motions. We get changed. We have a shower. We brush our teeth. Boom. We'll probably have a shower, then get changed. But
get changed, wash. Love it. Hey Kim, I literally could talk to I could keep asking you questions all afternoon, because it has been so helpful and so great to hear, particularly the difference between medical and behavioural, and how we need to focus on both if both are present, and also that it's great to hear that. I find it quite a relief that sleeping problems can arise and diminish over time. It's not like, and it's not necessarily anything to do with us. It's like if a problem comes up, we can deal with it. It's not like, oh my goodness, I didn't do the routine properly back when they were 3, so you know it's hopeless now. You know that we can always deal with what's happening. And
never too old.
Never too old. I know.
Never too old. Never too young, but never too old.
Never too old. And I will put all your details below this post, so that people can find you. I'm sure people will want to find you. I am also going to be handing your name out to people who if you know the very, you know, the kind of the vanilla as I'm talking about isn't working, and we need some fine-tuning and all that kind of stuff. So good to talk to you. You're a wealth of information. Thank you so much for being here and sharing generously with us, and thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on, and sleep well.
Before we go, is there anything is there any programs or anything you've got coming up that you'd like to tell people about that they can hook into for themselves or for their kids?
I have
or general services.
I have a lot in the pipeline. I have a new website coming, which will be more user-friendly for maybe primary school kids or adults.
Okay,
so it's more targeted. It's not there at the moment, but I do offer 30-minute discovery calls. I normally have around 5 of these a week, and these are free. Just talk about what's happening for your situation, because every child is different, every situation is different. So we do an evaluation about what's happening in your family and 100%. How best to resolve it. And if I can give you a quick tip, then I will.
Yeah, fantastic. That's so good to know. And Kim, when your website, when that's all complete, let me know, because we'll pop that link to that in the comments as well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kim. Fabulous to have you here, and thank you everyone for watching.
Thanks, Emma. Bye.
Bye.